Good Thursday morning. Hey, we're going to talk about insulin resistance today. We're going to talk about the untruths being told about out there about getting your not just your weight under control, but your health under control, and what foods you should be eating, and all of that stuff. So stay with me because we're going to go over everything. And yeah, it's been a crazy morning. I'm really late today. I set my phone down somewhere in my morning routine and couldn't find it. Is that crazy? Yeah. All right. So insulin resistance, you guys, let's all understand insulin resistance first. I'm going to talk about doing a cleanse today and how that can help with this whole thing, especially if you're having um, health issues, weight issues that you just can't seem to get over. Understand that your gut microbiome can be drastically off when you're insulin resistant. I want to talk a little bit about muscle and insulin resistance today too. We're going to talk about calorie counting and insulin resistance, and we're going to talk about how medications work or don't work, and we'll just go over all of that. One thing I haven't talked about for a long time is how insulin, when you give it to an insulin resistant person, is actually damaging to them. So let's start in. First, I do want to understand not only that, but where is everybody at today? I'm up in Maryland. I really do love to see when people are for, like the other day, we had South Africa, we've had Australia many, many times, and I love that. Where are you all located? If you're in the US, that's great. If you're in Canada, love that too. Anywhere in the world, I would love to see anybody that's outside of the US chime in today this morning. But if you are, just let me know where you're at, because it's one. Isn't it crazy with the internet that we're one big world community now? And I really like that part. So while you guys are deciding if you want to share where you're from, how many of you guys actually understand what insulin resistance is? If you need to understand this because you're hearing about it, but you just don't understand what it is, I think I'm a very logical type person in some ways, so I want to understand what's going on so I can understand why all of these things link in so we can understand how to take care of it. That's kind of how I deal with this. So, does everybody understand insulin resistance? If you don't understand what it really is, put a 1 in the chat. I'll go over that. So give me a 1 if you don't understand insulin resistance. Give me a 2 if you do think you know what it is, and that's great if you do. Okay, RoboCop, thanks for answering. Desiree, you guys are great. All right, so let's talk about insulin resistance. And this is going to get important in understanding your health and weight, right? So it's about hormones. Insulin, number one, let's start off with the fact that insulin is a hormone. Crazy thing is, hormones are proteins. So keep that in your back pocket for now. So insulin is a hormone. What does insulin do? Every hormone in your body has a different action. Your thyroid hormones are regulating energy. Your insulin hormone is delivering energy. It's also encouraging fat storage. So when we have foods that are converting into sugars too quickly and we're eating too often, we're constantly creating a need in the body for insulin, because when we eat and that converts to energy, insulin comes as, oh, I have this package, and the bloodstream can't handle it because the bloodstream only needs about 1 teaspoon of glucose or sugar in its bloodstream at a time, or it starts to cause damage. So insulin, like your ready UPS driver comes in or FedEx driver comes in and grabs that package and says, okay, I'm going to go deliver it. Now, the second part is that every single cell in your body has receptors or package drops for insulin to deliver to. But when we're having insulin being created all the time because of the high amounts of sugar and the constant amount of sugar in our system, those package drops don't want to open anymore. They just stop working. No matter what code you put in, no matter what key you try, that package receptor just doesn't work. And so now the packages are piling up, and the drivers are like, I got to get rid of these somehow, some way. So that packages start to go to a storage unit. And the storage unit, one of them is your fat cells. So when all the other cells are saying, I can't open up for you, you broke the lock because you're delivering so often, now it's putting it in a storage unit, hoping that those locks will work one day. But the locks aren't going to keep working, hey, Carrie, until we give them a break and fix them. So fixing them allows the insulin to come down so that we can get those locks functioning again. Insulin resistance is just too much sugar in the bloodstream too often, creating a need for a hormone that's delivering that energy to every cell in the body too often, and it just gets worn out. And because the traffic is so heavy, there's never time to stop and fix it. So we're going to talk about all of those concepts this morning and how we're going to fix that. So understand that insulin and the root of almost all of this disease and disorder is caused by too much insulin. So just like everything, like your sex hormones, your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, they're never high all day long. They peak and they wane and they go up and down at different points during the day. But we're not allowing our insulin to do that because we're constantly eating, and we're constantly eating foods that convert too quickly. You're going to hear me say that over and over and over again because I want you guys to understand that this didn't cause your problem. So this is not what's going to fix your problem. So we'll get into that later. I want to talk about a forum I'm in, and I'm hearing people, and they're like, well, I've been on this drug and it worked for a while, but now and I'm still having problems. If we're not fixing the root cause, which is the food that we're eating, this isn't going to fix that. It may give you some short-term results, but it's not going to fix the whole problem. So that's a lot, right? Does everybody kind of understand insulin resistance? It's an energy hormone. It's an energy delivery hormone, but it's also a fat storing hormone. So we have two words: anabolic, it wants things to grow; catabolic, it wants to eat things up. Insulin is in the anabolic side where it wants things to grow. And your body protects insulin with all its might because obviously we don't want something that's catabolic eating us up constantly to have control, or we just wouldn't be here. Insulin dependence, you're a type 1 diabetic. Yeah, there's some research, and I haven't had the time to dive into it not quickly enough, but in depth enough to understand what they're talking about. They are researching how there's some hope that they can help fix type 1 diabetes. Okay. So, and this is a great gestational diabetes reverted back to the same diet they put you on. So Casey, tell me what diet they put you on. I had gestational diabetes too, did not understand it. Look, I'm almost 60 years old. Back in the day, nobody was talking about insulin resistance, gestational diabetes, and oh, come on, I know the word. Toxemia during pregnancy. I had all of that, was really sick. And all I used to do was try to stay away from carbs, but I didn't understand the whole factor. So let's talk about let's talk about two things. Type 1 diabetes, first of all. The system that I use, or that I do every day, reversed my type 2 diabetes within about 6 months. It was starting to move it in 3 months, but it completely reversed it in 6 months. If I was to go to a new doctor today, they would never even say I was preeclampsia. Thank you. I don't know why sometimes words just go boop out of my head. But I've remained in an insulin center for 2.5 years with no medications. 2.5 years ago, I threw away. This was my choice. I'm not recommending this for everyone else. Please understand that. I threw away all of my medications because I was just done. I was so sick of being sick, and the medications making me feel sicker. I had high blood pressure. I had joints that were failing. I had hair that was falling out. I had teeth and gums that were bleeding. I had vertigo that would knock me on my keister half the time. Keister, that's an old person word, isn't it? But I don't have any of that anymore. Now, if we listen to scientists like Dr. Bickman, who wrote the book Why We Get Sick, which is, you guys will understand, and it's such an easy read, you guys. If you want to understand all of this more, I would encourage you to get the book and understand a little bit more about your body. Now, they're continuing to do research. So beyond this book, there's even more research that's been coming out now, but this is a great start to get you to understand it. So Dr. Bickman says, and I just read a post from him this morning, actually again on Twitter, where he said giving insulin to a diabetic is a type 2 diabetic is like giving alcohol to an alcoholic. Okay. And even type 1 diabetics notice that when they have insulin, they're having problems losing weight. There are some health issues that just don't seem to clear up because you're having the same problem as us. Your body's not producing insulin like ours does, but the need for it is the same. So whether you're type 1 or type 2, that need for insulin in your body and to keep it regulated and leveled out to what doctors are saying is the bare minimum amount of insulin that we could use is important. So hang on for a little bit. We're going to talk about some of that stuff. Hopefully it makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense as to how it applies to you as type 1 diabetics, stop and ask, and I will answer those for you. Okay. To the best of my knowledge, you guys, I'm just a woman who was super sick, got a lot better, and went like, how did this happen? How did these doctors for years, were they running around trying to figure out all these things that were going on with me and never figure it out? But just like, look at this piece and that piece, look at that list. They're looking at, why does she have brain fog? And then they go, oh my gosh, she's got, and oh my gosh, her joints are failing. And oh my gosh, she has hypothyroidism, and she has sleep apnea, and she has vertigo, and she's got these bleeding teeth and gums, and oh my God, she's falling apart. And they're running all these places looking instead of going to one central piece and saying, there might be one thing that's at the core of all of this, right? Well, you know what? I worked for some doctors that I might say had an agenda. I worked for some doctors that I would definitely say have an agenda. But you know what? Some of their agenda is to get you better. Some of them are really in it to get you better, but they've been educated in a way that's not allowing them to see this bigger picture. And more doctors are starting to stand up and talk about how they didn't get this education when they went to school, right? So, high protein, high fat, limited carbs, told you're pre-diabetic after having your baby. Casey Undercover, that happens a lot more often than you think. Man, it's probably been 6 months since I covered that. Why don't I, because I really want to get this done today. Oh, why don't I do a full video on how that happens? But look, give me a second and remind me about the gestational diabetes and how you end up as pre-diabetic after, even though you weren't diabetic before. Remind me to come back to that. Good morning, Janice. Okay, so let me come back and see. Insulin dependence. All right, that's where we were at. So what we really need to understand is that the food that we're putting in our face, you guys, we've gone from our food, like, don't we live in a world of excess? Like, I love it in part. Like, I have an SUV. It has every bell and whistle on it that was available at the time, which was a great luxury for me. First time in my life at like 59 years old that I was able to do that. And so and the sad thing is I rarely drive anymore because I work from home. But I like that we have all this stuff available to us too. But we've gone to this point in our growth where everything is just excess all the time. We've forgotten the fact that food is our nutrition. Food is giving us the pieces the pieces of nutrition to our body that we need to function throughout the day. Food is not about what tastes the yummiest. It's about what gives us the best nutrition. Yes, thank you, Carrie. It's been an amazing ride. I'm going to say something. I'm going to stop, pause. My grandson would be like, pause. I woke up this morning because I've been having a little bit of depression. I faced a lot of of narcissistic bullying last year. And I woke up and I thought, you know what? I live in this beautiful space. I'm surrounded by beautiful things. I have that amazing car. And doing this is what provided me with that. So I'm helping people and I have a beautiful life for it. And so I'm going to be super grateful for that today, for where I'm at in life, because it's, you guys don't know, it's so much different from when I was sick and I was broke and I was broken and everything felt like it was falling apart. And I know that there's people out there just like that. So if you want to talk to me about that, talk to me about that too. But let's get back to insulin. So what we've got to understand is that we're being pushed down a road of excess. I'm working so hard, you guys. I didn't realize how many pieces of the cookbook were not done yet. Wrapping that up. I'm going to get it out as imperfect as it is. And last night I thought about it. I'm like, why are you trying to give all of these recipes? All people need is something simple, a place to get started. And then I can give you links to some. What I decided last night is I think I'm going to start giving you guys some links to people who have recipes and stuff that I think are great and good places for you to go to. All right, so we need to see our food as nutrition, and I myself have forgotten that, right? Like we get so driven by, oh, life is hard and everything is difficult, and I just want something in my life that I can enjoy. And the one thing that's readily available to most of us is food. Whether it's the bag of chips, whether it's the can of soda, whether it's candy bars that are in every freaking gas station around, everywhere around you, and then stuff that's basically a candy bar packaged as a protein bar, all of that, we are led to look for these little dopamine hits of pleasure, and we've lost our way in seeing food as nutrition. Now, when we see food as nutrition and we focus on the nutrition part, which we're going to get to, all of that little dopamine hit starts to be less necessary because the brain levels out, the body levels out, and we start to feel better. Insulin resistance. All this food that we have is converting into sugar because they've stripped things from it. Things like fibers and phytonutrients and digestive, or not digestive, enzymes and proteins and stuff that would help us stay full and regulate the delivery of that food has been stripped out of the majority of our food. Now is when normally I have vegans come in and say, it's okay to have food as it being a comfort thing, right? But we want to utilize that carefully as comfort. So vegans would normally drop in right now. There's so many avenues. My head feels like this mountain with 1,000 trails to the top right now. But the food is just converting so quickly. So when the vegans would say, well, just eat whole, raw vegetables and fruits, well, that's going to help you. But if you understand that even our raw foods, even the ones that are labeled organic, are much, much different. I'm 60, so I remember, and I grew up on a farm in a small family farm in North Idaho, and we grew our own foods, and we had cows and chickens and all that stuff. I remember what foods looked like, and they were not what they look like today. So how did a peach go from, this is my favorite one, you guys can look up, Google sometime, what our food used to look like. Carrots look like a plant root because that's what they are. They were not these big orange, round, crunchy, juicy things that we have today. They were just these like roots that were bitter and they had nutritional value, but they were hard to eat. And people were like, okay, these are good, but could they be better? And they start stripping out the fiber. And now the carrot's this great big honking juicy thing, and you rarely see the type of like really root looking but kind of orange thing that I used to get as a kid. Peaches used to be about the size of this, small, crunchy, a little bit bitter. Now they're the size of my fist and they're huge and they're juicy. And if you guys pick up a peach at the store and you get, I don't know, I've done this too. If you pick up a peach at the store and you like bite into one and it's not juicy and it's kind of crunchy, you're like, ooh, this is not ripe. No, it just is a peach that has more fiber in it than the rest of them. And that fiber in that peach is going to slow down the delivery of the sugar in the peach to your system. There's a reason that nature had this crunchy fibrous part to things that had higher sugars in them, because it was protecting you from this whole thing of insulin resistance and this insulin out of control. So your kid is a strict vegan. And I've had vegans and vegetarians and pescatarians do the system and be like, wow, I thought I was healthy, and I didn't understand how much our food had been jacked with. And so just the little extra boost from the system, which is just putting back in nutrients, helped them get that last bit of health that they wanted. And a number of them are buying foods at the farmer's market and whatnot. So, and eating, a couple of them that I've had were tried to eat most of their food raw, not believing in cooking your food and all of that. So we've had across the board people who found better health by the system that I'm going to talk about. But understand that it doesn't matter whether your food is packaged or raw or organic, it's been modified. Now, do I advocate for eating as much whole foods as possible? Absolutely, I do. I do, absolutely. And you know what? Where we were going with this is I recently just said, you know what, Misha, I'm done with this. I'm done with pussyfooting around the issue. I'm just gonna sit down and in my crazy, what is it? I call it hurricane thoughts in my head. I wrote out this system for myself where I really started to focus on protein, fiber, and fats. And when I did that, I upped my caloric intake. How many of you guys have been told to restrict calories to get better? That if you lose the fat, you'll get healthier. That if you restrict your calories, you're going to lose the fat and then you're going to get healthier. So that's their dog is not meant to be vegan. That's sad. Sorry, just genetic truth. Their dog is not meant to be vegan. It's just not. And that's a whole other topic for a whole other day, but that breaks my heart. All right, so I lost track of where I was at. My crazy hurricane head. So I'm focusing on fiber, fats, and protein. I actually had higher caloric intake during the days that I ate last week, and I lost weight. Okay, so you guys understand that calorie counting is not the way to lose weight. Is there efficacy to calories in, calories out, as in you need to be expending energy if you're taking in energy? Yes, I agree with that. But it's hard to understand how those calories are acting in your body. And it's not just the muscular movement that's eating up the calories. Now, things like your brain take up 25% of the glucose that you take in a day. Your muscles build up, your skeletal muscles make up 25 to 30%. So am I saying you don't need to move? No, I'm saying absolutely move. Absolutely do some muscle building activity. I'm not talking about bodybuilder, but how many of you guys have even picked up a weight, looked at a weight, done anything to build your own skeletal muscle to stay healthy? Because if we look at our ancestors, they were doing some heavy labor. Our heavy labor now is getting up from our chair and running to the bathroom. Okay, so we need to get some of that back. We used to be in heavy labor all day, every day, building natural muscle in our bodies. So yes, I'm an advocate for movement. Now, why that? Because muscles, when you have more dense musculature, and I'm, again, not talking about bodybuilder style or gym rat style, but when you have that musculature on your body, your muscles are one of the tissues that are more insulin sensitive. So now you have this 25 to 30% of your tissues that want the glucose. So when they're active and they're moving, then you're having more chance of that insulin that's bringing the packages of energy in to be utilized. And I like that. So Blue Sky says, I pack my backpack to make it heavy and use it every day. So that I like that. When I was in the gym all the time, a lot of you guys don't know, I was a 4-time world champion power lifter. So I was in the gym 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, 3 hours a day. And I was still obese, right? I was still having health problems. I was doing keto. I was doing all the macros. I was doing all the stuff. I was still having health problems because what we weren't focusing on was getting the insulin down. Okay. So, 4-time world champion. And I still was sick. And I wasn't pumping my face full of pastries and all that stuff. Trust me, I was not. I did a keto diet, and I even went vegan for a while, and I was not doing well on a vegan diet. Now, there are people that do, but I wasn't. So, wow, can my brain just stay backpack and heavy? So when I was in the gym, I would see guys come in with like rucksack type things, and they would get on the treadmill or whatever, and they would go throughout their day because they were training for something. But they would have this backpack on because that extra stress helped their body. Off topic, but I do want to talk, especially because I'm postmenopausal and a woman. I want to talk about this. When I was in school to become a medical assistant, I had to do some studies and I had to write some papers and yada 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 yada. One of the studies that I did, because I was so involved in powerlifting, was about um, muscle and weight bearing exercise and osteoporosis. So, insulin resistance can cause your bones to not even get in the energy. One of the other ways that you guys this muscle building activity, weight bearing activity is good, especially for women, especially after the ages of 45 and 50, is that it's helping your bone density. So you hear about the little old ladies who fall and break a bone, and that's the spiral downward, and then they die later. You want to keep your bones strong and healthy. That weight bearing exercise is about more than your muscle. It's about keeping your bones strong enough to carry all of that muscle. So the study went a little like this. If women were not doing weight bearing exercise, they were losing a percentage of their bone density every year past the year 50. When they were doing cardio, or so just kind of some kind of exercise and incorporating a little bit of muscle building in there, or weight bearing activity, they started to maintain their bone density a little bit. When they had some good amount of weight bearing activity, their bone density was actually increasing a little bit. So you go from losing bone density after the age of 50 to maintaining, if not even increasing, a little bit of bone density by doing some weight bearing activity. So please understand that. I usually talk about taking walks, but I want you to understand that you have to get weight on your body. And so Blue Sky does this backpack thing. And if that's what you can do, is put a backpack on with some weight in it and go up and down some stairs, take your walk with the backpack on it. If that's where you start, then start there. But start doing some weight bearing exercise, and try to do some weights that are in excess of your own body weight. It's going to help your bones as you age. It's going to help prevent them from protect them from the effects of insulin resistance. It's going to help protect your muscles from the effects of insulin resistance. And here we go with the muscles. So do you guys understand that when you're insulin resistant, part of the reason you're having hard time with muscle density is that your muscles just are not getting the clues from insulin because they're so inundated. So the less active we are, the less energy we're getting into them, and we're starting to lose more and more muscle. And because remember, the delivery driver can't deliver those packages, they're putting them in the storage unit. So now muscle is going down and fat is going up. Now, when a traditional person will tell you to lose weight to get healthy, they always focus on the fat, right? If you get rid of the fat, your insulin comes down. That comment was made yesterday. Well, your insulin came down because you were fat and you got rid of the fat. No, it's exactly opposite. I got the insulin down to get the fat gone. Okay. Now, if you do that by calorie restriction, what happens is you're losing even more muscle to try and get to this fat. When you do it not restricting calories, I'm not saying restriction. I don't want you to eat 5,000 calories in a day. I want you to pay attention to the calories that you eat being dense, and I don't count calories outside of to just like test what's going on. If you're getting nutrient dense foods, so you need to get in about a gram of protein per pound of body fat. You need to match those proteins with fats. You have to have fats when you have proteins. The proteins don't metabolize well, and there's other issues that happen when you don't have fats with your protein. Stop all the lean protein stuff. I don't buy chicken without skin on it. I don't buy the skinny yogurt or the skinny anything, because that's a bunch of crud. Why are you trying to get protein in without the fat? It doesn't work well. So protein and fats, when I focus on those and getting in enough fiber to build my gut microbiome, things go much better. I have more mental clarity, I have more energy, my weight does better, my all of the stuff does better. So you guys focus on fiber, fats, and protein. Pre-diabetic means you're the next stage of insulin resistance, right? So, yeah, postmenopausal are already seeing muscle loss. And so, you guys, I'm going to admit that I've been very active, but I just haven't been to the gym. And it used to be, let's, in another sense, so muscle loss, ADHD, insulin resistance, they're all linked. I do have ADHD, if you haven't noticed that yet this morning. An ADHD doctor was talking about doing things that give you dopamine hits, and the gym was actually one of them for me. I've gotten so focused on trying to take care of everything else that I haven't gotten to the gym. Then I moved and I lost my one tennis shoe, so I had a pair of tennis shoes with one missing. Just as I was about to go buy another pair of tennis shoes, my daughter-in-law found my other tennis shoes somehow at their house. So today I'm going to be back in, and I'm going to focus on muscle building, weight training, resistance type exercises. So that should help with everything, especially being ready to turn 60 in a month. I want to make sure that the muscles on my body are protecting me and moving me throughout, because I have this crazy dream of living past 100, but I'm not going to get there if I don't have muscle on my body, if I don't have strong bones, if I don't have all of that. So yes, exercise is hugely important. Pre-diabetes. Okay, so we're going to come back to this. So pre-diabetes means you're already the next stage of insulin resistance. So I haven't. Let's do this. I talked a little bit about how insulin resistance means too much insulin in the body. It's just inundating the cells, right? And then the cells are just like shutting down, and things are breaking down, and they can't take in the insulin anymore. So one of the cells that's the most insulin sensitive is your fat cells. So when the other cells are not taking it in, why I say it goes to the storage unit is because now insulin is taking that energy that it can't get in these cells and puts it in your fat cells. But your fat cells are also very protective of themselves. And Dr. Bickman talks about this. So when they start to get to a place where they're just like so big that they're feeling stressed and at risk, they're going to start shutting down to insulin as well. They're going to start leaking out things into the body that create inflammation and a lot of other problems that are only going to increase the insulin resistance. So we really need to address that insulin piece to get these fat cells healthy, to get the muscle cells healthy. So how are we going to do that? All right, let's dive into that really quick, because being pre-diabetic, I want you to understand, let me take it back a step. I skipped a whole big piece. So now the fat cells are leaking sugars and inflammation back out into the body, right? So now the sugar levels are starting to go up in your system, pre-diabetes. Because now at this point, you've been insulin resistant for a long time, but the body's been dealing with it by storing it in fat cells and in other cells that it can store it in, but it's not having cells that are not taking it in as well. So at this point, when even the fat cells are like, I can't do anymore, the glucose level starts to build in your bloodstream. Now your fasting blood glucose is high. Now your A1C is high, and now through a whole other faction the action that happens because of sugar, your blood lipids are starting to get out of whack as well. Okay, so those three things start to happen that take you from insulin resistance to prediabetes, and then past prediabetes, past like 6.3, 6.5, you're now diabetic, and now Houston, we have a problem, right? But it all started with insulin resistance. It just got worse and worse and worse as the cells couldn't deal with it. So again, this doesn't solve the problem of the food that we're eating or how often we're eating, and it's not curing what is going on inside of you. So and I hate to use the word cure, but if you start paying attention to what's happening with the food, you're going to start to understand what's happening with your insulin, and then you're going to start to understand that you don't need all of this to fix it. And many doctors have said, that are on the cutting edge now, that are actually like, I'm sick of this whole old model. They're saying you cannot fix a dietary disorder with medication. Medication doesn't fix a dietary disorder. Medication may fix an inflammation in your body. Medication may fix some other deficiencies or problems that it's trying to rebalance, but a dietary disorder is not fixed by anything but your diet. Now, I'm not talking about highly restrictive, you guys. I want middle of the road for people, but middle of the road for people is not what we've been taught. So I started to talk about you need 1 gram of protein per pound of body fat that you want to be. So I'm not there yet, right? I'm still a little over 200 pounds. I want to get down to about 165, 170 pounds is good for my body. We talked a little bit about BMI with Dr. Jones yesterday. I have a more dense musculature and bone structure than some people. Genetics plays a role. So 165, 170 pounds is going to look way different on me than somebody who has thinner, less dense bones and less propensity for muscle. So I need to get in about 160 to 170 grams of protein in a day. And as much as I preach protein, I sat down and took a big self-check and was like, yeah, but you're not getting in that much protein. Interesting thing is that if you get in too little protein, your body is not utilizing it, and your body is not able to lose weight because it's um it's sensing that it's in like a starvation, wasting kind of mode. So you're not able to lose weight because that anabolic side, we want things to grow, is kicking in. Okay, so what about digestive enzymes? I use digestive enzymes. So user Rosie, you weren't on here earlier when I was talking about how much our foods have been messed with. There is a reason why in the last 50 years or so we've gotten sick, because the food industry has messed with our foods, modified them, manufactured them to the point that they're no longer as nutritionally efficient as they used to be. So tell me you don't go to the grocery store to buy food to keep your body healthy, because you're buying a product. Okay. Digestive enzymes. So yes, you should be getting in about 150 grams of protein. And most of us should be getting in at least 30 grams of fiber. And a majority of us, according to scientific papers, are only getting in 12 to 15 grams of fiber in a day. So we need to get in more than 30 grams of fiber, because that's important for our gut microbiome. About 150 grams of protein. I would aim to get at least 30 grams of fiber in, and that's going to get you started. But you need to have fat in there. There's okay, for the tea, there's lemon ginger, there's citrus mint, and there's black, which tastes more like coffee. So 4 different flavors for the tea. The best foods for fiber, Michelle, you want to look at foods that are, there are some root foods that are good for fiber, but you want to make sure that if you're looking at a root food, it's going to be crunchy, it's going to be a little bit bitter. The best foods for this whole insulin resistance thing, according to Dr. Ben Bickman, are your dark green vegetables that grow above ground. Now, I'm not talking about like lettuce. Iceberg lettuce, you guys, has very little fiber. It has very little nutritional value. It's like the decoration sitting on the shelf that doesn't do you any good. So those like the spring green mix, those leafy greens, those really dense dark greens that have a little bitter taste to them, those are going to be higher in fiber. Broccoli and celery and yeah, spinach and kale. Yeah, I love spinach. I transitioned from iceberg lettuce to spinach a number of years ago when I was doing keto, and I just used spinach instead of iceberg lettuce. It took some transition, but now I can't even stand the taste of iceberg lettuce. It just is like I'd rather have spinach on it. I wish that I wish that when I went out they would do that. But in fact, I had Indian food last night with my kids. We have dinner together every Wednesday night, and it's our family time. And we love Indian food. So we had like butter chicken, and we had tikka masala, and then there's a dish that I love that I go right to the mint room right here in Maryland and get. It's I will murder the name, I know, but it's called palak chat, and it's a fried spinach with some chickpeas in it, has some onion in it. It has a little bit of yogurt type stuff on it. It's amazing. So, and I actually would rather eat that than about anything else. And we were talking last night, like looking back at our lives, how like this spinach dish that's so amazing, I would rather eat that than any dessert food out there. So if I'm going to have anything extra, it's going to be that spinach dish, high in iron, high in protein, like high in fiber. It's such a good food. I was trying to figure out how to make it myself at home. I might have to learn to make a version of it because I do love spinach. It's crazy. I used to hate it, but I love spinach now. I just think it's a great nutrient, and when you fix it right, it can be a yummy, yummy food. Yes. So we kind of fight over that dish when I bring it home. However, you guys, I'm going to admit we did have some mint naan and some garlic naan with dinner last night. I just try to make sure that I'm having that towards the end of my meal, that I'm focusing on the greens and the protein first, and that I limit the amount of naan that I have. Okay. So it is healthy not eating breakfast. That's a great question from Facebook. So let's talk about that. And it's actually perfect. So, and I Zhangzhu, is that how you say your name? I hope I didn't murder that. Look at when we're eating, when I talk about eating all the time, and if you're wanting to just try and do this with food, that's great. I do have a system that supports it, so let's do that. What's naan? Naan. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Nan, whatever. It's a bread. It's a flat bread, um, and it's yummy. I just try to limit that. I am not a proponent of medications. Metformin out of all of them is probably the better one. I have so many people trying to get off the metformin. Metformin made me extremely sick. Okay. So, Zhangzhu, let's talk about not eating breakfast. You guys, there's this big misnomer that if we don't eat breakfast, we're losing muscle. You don't start losing muscle with intermittent fasting. You'll start losing muscle when you start doing long-term fasts and you're devoid of nutrients that your body needs, right? So long-term. I've done 3, 5, and 7-day fasts, 10-day fasts. At that point, I'm probably losing a little muscle, but I'm also working on my gut. So it's a balance, right? When you're doing long-term fasts, you can be at risk of losing muscle, especially if you're not getting nutrition in during your eating periods. So if you went into a long fast and you've just been eating high carbohydrate things and you don't have a lot of protein and you have all this excess fat and you're more likely to lose more muscle at first. So let's go over the timeline. And this is from science, not just from my little head. I have a diagram on it, but who cares? So let's just talk about it. When you eat, it's going to spike your glucose, right? Your food is turning into glucose. So it takes a couple of hours for all of that to happen, and you start to get this glucose starting to level out. But it can take 4 hours for that glucose to exit your body. It takes several hours after that for insulin, especially when we've trained it to be high all the time, to say, okay, I'm not needed anymore, and insulin can go to sleep and be like, I can have a rest. That's about 8 hours in. If you're extremely insulin resistant, it could be 10 or 12 hours before insulin comes down. So the fasting is about getting the insulin levels down. Fasting is not about weight loss. Fasting is not about calorie restriction. Fasting is about getting the insulin level to come down enough that we can start to use the rest of our metabolism. So on the other side, the component hormone to insulin is called glucagon. Insulin wants things to grow. It's anabolic. Glucagon is catabolic. It wants to eat things up. So cells that are dead and damaged or dying and need to go away, the excess fat you have on the body, there's other toxins in the body, all of that can start to go away when glucagon is controlled. And your body, if you guys think that your body is that unintelligent that it's going to go, oop, I'm fasting, let's go eat up the muscle, when there's all of this stuff that it can convert into energy and use first, That's against everything in our body to do that. So you're not losing muscle by doing intermittent fasting. You're allowing the insulin to come down. So the difference is glucagon, fat for energy, and some of this junk stuff. Insulin, sugar for energy. Okay. So when glucagon, insulin goes down at about hour 8. It takes a couple of hours for your body to go, oh, okay. They're really not going to put more food in their face. So glucagon, you need to come out and do your job. That's at about hour 10. Okay. So then glucagon comes out and it's like running around going, okay, I've got this job to do and I see this and I see that. And there's this place I could go. But it's still kind of cautious because insulin is kind of like a bully. And then when we're not eating yet, about 2 hours after glucagon comes out, then the body starts to have a party. The gut starts to reset. So now we're at about hour 12. Your human growth hormone goes up. Your ketones go up. And ketones are little messengers that go out and tell the body to utilize this fat and convert it into energy. So it's actually converting it back into a form of glucose. You might see your blood sugar levels kind of rise and fall during this period, but that's normal. So now, at about hour 12, all of that's starting to happen. Your gut's resetting, which means your gut microbiome is starting to clean up. At about hour 14, you're really into a fat burning stage. So now you're getting rid of some of that junk cell, you're getting rid of some of that fat, and at about hour 16, you break your fast. But now, because you've eaten, your insulin level goes back up. But you do this every day for a while, and all of a sudden your insulin starts to come down. Now, it's important when you're in your 8-hour eating window is as important as that fasting window. This is, again, it's not about calorie restriction. I aim to get in the same amount of nutrients in that 8-hour window as I would if I was, in any other time. So for me, it's probably 18 to 2,000 calories. I still aim to get that amount in. But more importantly, I aim to get in 150 grams of protein. I'm aiming to get in 30 to 50 grams of fiber. I'm aiming to get in a certain amount of that in fats. And then if I have room or I'm even hungry enough, then I can have carbohydrates. Okay, so not eating break fast, what I assume you're meaning is not eating the moment you get up, is yes, absolutely healthy. I have my break fast at about 10 to 11 on my eating days. I'm done eating by about 6 p.m. on my eating days. So my break fast could be, because I've been so focused on nutrients, it could be a protein shake that's high in fats and high in protein. It could be, you guys would be surprised what's on my plate. It's like 3 eggs, some sausage. I'm not counting the calories. I'm counting the protein and the fiber on my plate and the fats. Okay. So I'll have 3 eggs. Do I ever take the yolk out of my eggs? No. Because when you take the yolk out of your egg, you have protein without the fat, and there's damage that can happen when you do that. And I can go into that later. Now, so that's what I would have for breakfast. For lunch today, I have some chicken that's left over. So it's chicken that was sauteed with artichokes and some Greek olives and some feta cheese. Put a little bit of lemon juice and chicken broth. And then I was like, well, it's missing something. So I added a little heavy cream in there. Amazing dish. Okay. I eat those 2 things. Now I'm struggling to get my 3rd meal in, but I'm probably at almost 100 grams of protein by the time I have those 2 meals in. So I have, right now, what I'm doing is I have 1 meal at about 10. I have my next meal at about 2. I have my 3rd meal. Am I only eating 2 meals? No. I'm having my 3rd meal at 3, but I'm not snacking in between. And trust me, you don't want to snack when you eat like this because you're so full that by the time the next meal comes, you may start to feel hungry, but you just don't have space for all those sugars and crap because those burn through your system too quickly and keep you hungry. When you focus on proteins and fats, you're staying fuller longer. Okay. So now my 3rd meal today, I don't know what's in there. It'll probably be, there's like some salmon, I think, still in my fridge, maybe steak. If I feel like, I just don't have time to cook, I might go back to one of my high fat protein shakes. but I really try to get at least 2 meals in a day that are real whole foods. Um, Come have lunch with me, Carrie. You guys would be surprised. Like the food I eat is crazy good. And although I have some excess weight on me still, we're working on getting that off by addressing more hormones. But the rest of my health is crazy good. Like the headaches were gone, the sleep apnea is gone, the muscle cramps and the joint problems and all of that's gone. The gut problems are so much better. Just like it's my health across the board is so much better, right? Michaela, she says it sounds delicious. Once you eat healthy, you crave healthy. It's crazy. It's like a drug. So we had some leftover cheesecake from the holidays. I had a look at it yesterday because I broke my fast, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to treat myself at the end of the day to this little bit of cheesecake, still high in fats. I took a bite and I was like, ugh, I don't want it. I threw it away. Um, and with the mindset of poverty that I grew up in, good Christian family, you shouldn't want excess. We were taught never to throw food away. That was tough, but I did it. So yeah, your taste changes when you start getting in proper nutrients. When your gut microbiome changes and all of that happens, you start to change how you eat. So black coffee is okay during the fasting window. Yes, black coffee is okay. Don't go adding sugar in it. Don't go adding those coffee mate creamers. You guys, coffee mate creamers are actually really full of those oils that I talk about all the time that are causing inflammation that increase your insulin resistance. Dr. Ben Bickman has talked about it. Um, they're just not a good choice. Like if you have to put something in it, a fat like a tablespoon at the most of heavy whipping cream would be good. But so looks, I'm going to talk about what I did in addition to all of that really quick because I haven't gone over it. So I do a tea. You guys see me drinking my tea every morning, and I will come back and talk about what this tea does, but it's super important for the fat burning stage. It does not break my fast. It's a very specific type of tea, so it's not, I get all this, like I do hibiscus tea, I do some kind of green tea, I do whatever. It's a very specific tea, and we'll come back to it. But basically, what I do is a tea in the morning during my fasting window. I can have my tea at any time during the day, and I actually have it all day long. And then to get the enough fiber in, I have a pre-meal drink that I drink every day, 10 minutes before I eat. And because I'm understanding more and more and more about fiber in the gut microbiome, I'm doing 3 different types of a fiber type supplement before I eat every time I eat. So the first one I do is the one that comes with the Feel Great system. That is packaged with a tea in the morning and 2 pre-meal drinks, which would have 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers, phytosterols, vitamins and minerals in them that are aimed, all scientifically designed and tested to aim at your metabolism. So helping bring down that A1C, helping bring down that blood glucose, helping bring down those blood lipids. That's the guarantee with that product. Now, because I'm diving into having more fiber, I can do a third one of those a day if I want. But right now I'm also doing a cleanse. Our cleanse has a tablet called FlOA that's really there to help pull out the toxins within the digestive tract and release them so that they can be removed. So then it's followed with this other fiber that I'm using now, right now during the cleanse, that has 27 different types of fiber, and it's aimed at moving all of that toxins that's coming out of my body out of my body. So there's that. But the system is a tea in the morning. I got off track. A tea in the morning and a pre-meal drink twice a day in a 16-hour period. With mayo, what I would be more concerned about is in full or light. I would have full. I never buy anything that's packaged low fat, fat free, any or light like that, and I watch the sugar count in it. My liver was really damaged during all the years of insulin resistance to the point that I lost my gallbladder. So now I'm every once in a while I'm doing these cleanses and stuff because look at, like I keep saying it, I'm almost 60 years old. In a month I'll be 60, and I understand now that I probably was insulin resistant for more than 40 years. That's a lot of damage throughout my body. Does that all clear up in 1 year without some extra help? No. If you're lucky enough to catch this when you're younger and you've only been insulin resistant for a few years, you're going to have an easier time of getting your body back to normal. Now, my body is starting to shut down, right, after 50, but I've had all this damage go on. So I'm taking extra steps to help get my liver back to health. And by the way, before I started the system, my liver panel was at risk. We were so um, we were so focused on my blood glucose and my A1C and my lipids that neither my doctor or I looked at my liver panel. And it was only after I started learning about insulin resistance and after looking at this, I lined up my stuff, and I was like, wait a second, doc, my liver was failing. We never talked about that. Why didn't we talk about it? And she goes, because there was so much else going on. Because I was just trying to deal with what seemed to be the biggest problem. And so that's what we did. And so my liver panel now is in normal range. But does that mean that I don't feel like I have more to do with my liver? Especially when, hey, Dr. Delaney Quest, it's been a while since I've seen you. But does it mean that I don't still have stuff stored in my liver that I could release and pull out and get my liver healthier? No. So I'm doing the cleanse along with the system, and I do it twice a year because of my age and the length of my insulin resistance to help me just get better. Um, Bryce says, and I'm just going to read this out because I'm not afraid of it. Stop making up things to sell stuff to people. I'm not. There's a ton of science out there about insulin resistance and all of this. And my favorite doctor, who's continually working on how to help people with insulin resistance, talks about everything that I'm talking about. And there are so many more doctors, Dr. Lee, Dr. Yao, Dr. Pradeep, even Will Bolsowitz, who's more of a vegan type person, talks about this and talks about the importance of fiber. I'm not making anything up. I'm following the science. The science, by the way, that thank God somebody looked at and found, and somebody here on TikTok sold me the system. And that one day that I saw this and this information, and I said, my health is failing and I'm probably going to die by the time I'm 70, and I have grandkids I want to have time with. I don't want that life. I want something better. And I took a chance and I started this, and 13 different medications went away. A knee that needed to be replaced 2 years ago no longer needs to be replaced. My blood pressure that was at 180 over 150 at some point every day is down to 112 over 74. My liver panels are normal. All my other panels are normal. My hormone panels are all within normal range now. Did I make any of that up? No. Fortunately, there's papers and there's doctor visits and there's all that, and then there's the science go behind why this happened. Now, the two products that I'm talking about, interestingly enough, I didn't know at first, but Dr. Bickman was working with the company at the time, and he helped develop these two things. In fact, the tea has one called Fuel, Unimate Fuel. It has some MCT oils in it. How did that particular product come about? Because Dr. Bickman was adding MCT oils to that tea every day when he was walking around the office. They asked him why. They dug into it. They figured out that there was some real science behind it, and they did that. The company, by the way, has its own team of scientists, and everything we do is scientifically born, not marketing born. So we're taking the science that we're figuring out what's wrong with people. We're helping them get better. So what I would like is for people to stop making or trying to make me or anyone else feel bad for bringing to light things that people don't understand and need to know so that they can actually get healthier. Okay. So again, you go to the grocery store to buy food and your food is imperfect, but nobody's telling you that. You go buy all kinds of other things. But when we talk about helping people's health, for some reason, all of a sudden it's taboo to talk about. Why? That's your problem, not mine. Um, so it's food. So let's talk about that. That's another great question, you guys. When you go to the store and you buy an apple, is it FDA approved? And is that FDA regulated? But do you buy that apple anyway, thinking that it's going to give you nutrition? Is the steak you buy FDA approved? But do you feel like it's going to give you nutrition? So there is science backing behind this. There's enough scientific studies and whatnot behind this that there's a thing here in the US. If you're in the US, you might have heard of it. It's called the Prescriber's Digital Reference. It's the one reference that every doctor and pharmacist goes to look up medications. Now, we are one of the only companies with real food products in the PDR. We have 18 of them in there. Are they FDA approved? No, because they're not a medication. So if you're going to only buy what's medicated, go buy medications and stop buying food. And LDL down and triglycerides. So let's talk about that. It's about your sugar, not about your fat. Okay? It's about sugar, not about fat. A1C is 4.9, insulin is 92. So Dr. Bickman talks about, so I'm not sure what that insulin, most of the time they're looking at, what Dr. Bickman talks about is below 6 and below 10 for insulin. And your A1C can show up as 4.9 because until you get to a tipping point, your A1C doesn't start to go up because the body is storing off that glucose where it can, but not getting it to the cells for energy. It doesn't happen until the fat cells and some of these other cells that are receptive get overwhelmed. And then now your blood glucose goes up, which means your A1C goes up because that's a picture over time of your blood glucose. So yes, you can absolutely be insulin resistant and have a normal blood glucose. So okay. So you guys, I don't mind addressing things, but yeah, I'm just not here for people who look at. Can we all take a moment for Bryce? He's gone, but can we all take a moment for him and understand that this little man is just angry and volatile, and that he needs some love and light in his life. So let's send that to him now. All right. So will the Unimate break your fast? No. So when we're talking about fasting, what we're talking about is not spiking our insulin for the most part, okay? There's some other forms of fasting, but for this purpose, what we want to do is not spike the insulin. There are a few calories, like 10 calories in this, but they don't spike, it doesn't spike your insulin. And I had a conversation with Dr. Bickman about this and the fiber actually during my fasting window. And let's talk about that. This does not break your fast. It actually supports your fast. When you take in the tea, it's high in this thing called chlorogenic acids, 375 times higher than a standard yerba mate tea. And that's what this is, yerba mate tea, highly concentrated, highly purified. So devoid of the pesticides and the pesticides and toxins. I was about to say pestins and toxicides. Wow. Toxins and pesticides that you'll find in a normal bagged tea, but it does not break your fast. Just don't go adding a lot of additives to it that will break your fast. Things that won't break your fast that you can add to it, things like cinnamon. I've created a chai spice that I like to mix in every once in a while. Those things are great and actually good for your metabolism. So no, it does not break your fast. Now, interestingly enough, one of the things I'm learning is I learn more and more about fiber. Um, Carrie, send him that sign all you want. So the one thing I found out this last year from Dr. Bickman, because I went up and I talked to him and I said, hey, look, I did this, I've been playing around because I want to figure out what works in my body and what's happening. Yeah, I don't add a lot to it, but every once in a while, if you want to change, like on a cold day, some chai spice in this is super warming and great. Or later in the afternoon, you want to add a little milk and some chai spice in it. Amazing. Milk, I mean heavy cream. You guys, every time I say milk, I mean heavy cream. Okay, I don't do reduced fat anything. Um, um, it's if it was just about simple lifestyle modifications, that would have worked for so many people and we'd all be there. Can you add monk fruit or stevia? Yes, as long as those are things that are not increasing your glucose level. So monk fruit, yes. Things like agave, honey, no. Monk fruit, stevia, yes. In fact, once in a while, like if I drink the black, I don't really care for the taste of the black. A lot of people do, but I can add some stevia in that, and that works as well. I do add stevia in some of the shakes I do to help with flavor. Um, and yeah, so, and you guys, here's the thing also. Understand that you're going to get a little extra caffeine, but let's talk about the caffeine in this. So this is giving you about the same amount of caffeine um, as a cup of coffee, but it has three things called adaptogens in it that help mediate that action of caffeine. So it's not harming your heart, and it's actually, there are components in this that actually help your heart. The top one is that chlorogenic acids that I talked about. They have antioxidant, anti-cancer properties. They're heart healthy. They work with your heart. That's how I was able to get off of those 13 different medications and have a normal blood pressure, medication free. So the other one is triterpenoid saponins, that are present only in this tea, but they act much like the reishi stuff that you guys talk about. And then theobromine. Theobromine is the third component. When those three things attach to the caffeine molecule, they make the caffeine molecule act very differently. So now you're not getting crashes, you're not getting jitters, you're not getting angry type issues, but you have this great increased mental clarity and mood, and you have a really sustained long-term effect from energy. The other thing it's doing is it's helping kick out ketones. So in a fasted state, when I'm drinking the tea, it's encouraging, it's getting more messengers out there to burn fat for fuel. So why do I have high energy although I don't have any food in my system? Because this is helping me utilize my own fuel for energy. So this is really great for the fasting window. So you're hyperglycemic. Are you hypoglycemic? Uh, this does not stop intermittent fasting at all, Sammy. Sorry to give you that news. Cayenne pepper. I used to drink crazy drinks with cayenne pepper in it, and that works well as well. Your body doesn't make sugar. That's a new one for me. That's actually, I'm not a doctor, so let me write that down and do some looking and see if I can understand that. And then maybe we can talk again tomorrow morning, because I don't want to just say stuff. Herbal mate tea is available on Amazon, and when you buy normal bagged herbal mate tea, it's about 375 times less potent in the chlorogenic acids that are actually doing this work and causing GLP-1 type actions of shutting down hunger in the brain and whatnot. So do I want to take a bagged tea, carry that around, steep the tea, and even at 30 bags of it, so you say even 30 times, 30 bags of that tea in a sitting to get what's in this cup, and then put myself at risk for the pesticides and toxins. And then I take that bagged tea on Amazon and say, okay, now I'm going to have 30 of these in a day, and I multiply that number out. I'm spending more on that tea that's not giving me what this is, and I'm getting all the pesticides and toxins. Okay. Um, can you take it for blood pressure? So what I'm going to tell you is your husband's been using for 5 months. So yeah, cayenne pepper is great for your vascularity, for your metabolism, for so many things, you guys. And by the way, when you are insulin resistant, your vascular system is at risk. Cayenne pepper actually is great. Um, the the apple cider vinegar, I wouldn't probably have a problem with. I wouldn't do both lemon juice and apple cider during fasting, but I'm not like I would go listen to Dr. Mindy Pels or Dr. Boz and see what they say. Look up Dr. Pels or Dr. Boz, especially if you're a woman talking about fasting, and see what they would have to say about those things. Okay. Um, Okay, so yeah, the tea does all of that for me, and that's what I would do. So I just got a message in that I have a call in about 10 minutes, guys. I try to keep my lives to about an hour. We've been on a little over an hour, and I appreciate you all. I will come back in the morning. We'll talk more about this stuff, but understand what I did was simply this tea in the morning and the 2 pre-meal drinks, and everything up here got better for me. I lost 55 pounds. We're working on the rest of it. Unfortunately, we didn't save my gallbladder in time, so that got removed. But I don't have to have a knee replacement. My eyesight's gotten better. Amazingly, these are like 1.75. 2.5 years ago, I was in 3 and growing out of 3s and diopter their readers. So my eyesight has been reversed a little bit. My blood pressure, you asked about blood pressure. That's right. So I can't tell you what's going to happen for you, but what I'm going to tell you is this. I had super high blood pressure. My right arm was going numb. I now understand that that was meaning that my heart was like at risk. We have a cardiologist, Dr. Ahmed, and he was on my live one morning, and I'm going to get some of his videos put up. He recommends this system to every single patient that comes in his door, a cardiologist. So I was super scared when I started because my Unamate. So it's not matcha. I do matcha, but I'm careful with that during my fasting window. Matcha does not have the chlorogenic acids that are so beneficial that the mate does. Okay, so I do drink both types of tea, but during my fasting window for these purposes, it's the mate that I drink. Wow. Insulin resistance is not the cause of belly fat, but it's the calories. Well, you're wrong and you're right. Excess calories in the wrong kinds can cause that. But insulin resistance is the cue that tells your body to store the type of fat that's underneath the muscle wall in your belly called visceral fat, which is brown fat, which has more mitochondria in it, which is choking off your muscles in there, can cause some gastroparesis, all of that. All of that definitely does come from insulin resistance. It is the same drink, the same mate. This is actually grown in Argentina. We buy it directly from farmers who own their own farms, hand pick it in Argentina. Yes, they call it the food of the gods, among other things down there. An amazing drink. Their soccer team packs tons of this herbal mate tea with them when they travel and compete. So I don't even know how to say your name, so I'm just going to say Raj. Do a little more research, please, and look into insulin resistance and how the sugar that's causing the insulin to go up is what's causing the problem. You missed the whole rest of my live where I talked about I'm not restricting calories. I'm focusing on fiber, protein, and fats. It's not the calories because focusing on those, getting those nutrients in, I don't worry about the calories. I'm more focus on the right amount of those 3 nutrients, and everything has gotten better, and my blood glucose and all of the factors, including um my hypertension, has gone down. So you just need, I would invite you to come listen more on some of my lives and see what you think, because the calorie thing is old news and it's broken news. And go listen to Dr. Bickman. Go check him out on Twitter. He just talked about this whole calorie thing this morning. So go read that because he's a metabolic specialist, a metabolic scientist. Um, you're very, very welcome. So it's, if you guys want the tea and stuff, I haven't even gone over that. Just go to my profile link up here, click on that. Right below the red lights, there's going to be a link that has my landing page, a number of things on there, but the very top one is the system I use. Now, I do want to cover that before I hop off, but it's important to buy from an authorized distributor. You'll notice when you click on my link to buy, it takes you to the company website, because a couple of things happen. You get a 90-day money-back guarantee for those A1C, blood glucose, and lipids that they will reduce in those 90 days if you do it consistently and like it's meant to. But now they have a 90-day satisfaction guarantee. You don't get that when you buy it on Amazon, eBay, Walmart. None of those people are authorized, and it's not being shipped from the company. So we take this seriously. If you buy those, then yeah, you're not getting all the shipping, you're not getting all the guarantees, you're not getting any of that. So we found pirated product, all of that. I don't even want to get into that. Just go to the link, use that. You're going to get connected to me. I'm going to send you out texts. You have the right to text. You'll have my phone number. You can text me at any time with questions. I have people pick up the phone and call me and ask me questions. Like the last one was, can they have the fiber before colonoscopy? And I addressed that for them. So I'm not a doctor. I'm a woman who goes out and finds the information that needs to be brought back and trying to help people who were suffering like I was. So just go to my link and use that, and then it's there. Okay, guys. And by the way, this company, if you go to that site and you look at all of that stuff, this company's been around since 1903. This is not a newbie. We're hopping on some trend company. They've been around doing science for a long time. And this actually came out about the same time as metformin. The reason you don't hear about it is because it came out at the same time as metformin, and we're talking about natural food products. Vertigo is linked to insulin resistance. I have to hop off live. Join me tomorrow morning around 8:30, and we're going to go over that. I will bring to you some things but it does have a link to your brain and even Meniere's disease and why you're having vertigo. I had extreme vertigo before I started. I don't have vertigo episodes at all now. But join me in the morning and we'll talk about it. I got to run, guys. I love you all. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for all the great questions and the great input. And I really don't mind addressing other questions. I just don't like when people get abusive or disrespectful. None of us need that in our lives. And just like it took me a long time to learn, if they're just going to continue to be abusive and disrespectful, yeah, I'm going to block them. It's not a weakness. It's a strength because I'm standing up for the space and the energy I want in my life. And I encourage you to do the same. We'll talk to you in the morning, okay? Good night, or good day, guys.